100 years of Packers football and 100 seasons of the NFL. You add that together and you get the 200th episode of this great show. And for this special 200th celebration, the gang is all back together to talk about winning ugly and loving every minute of it. Seahawks, 49ers, and a crazy playoff football weekend all next with all four of us on your 200th episode of the Packers Fan Podcast.
This is your Packers Fan Podcast, the show by and for fans of your 13-time NFL champion Green Bay Packers. Wayne Henderson here, and we've got a lot of great stuff happening on this Packers Victory edition of the show for you this time around.
And I'm Scott Clark. This is the 200th episode of the Packers Fan Podcast, recorded January 13th, 2020, and it feels so good to say that the green and gold are headed to the NFC Championship. I almost can't believe it still. On episode 200, we will be discussing the Packers winning ugly yet again, and you'll be hearing more familiar voices than normal. Sir Troy Heinritz and the Packers Fan Podcast's first co-host from back in the day, Dallon Christiansen, both join in for the celebration.
That's right. Welcome back, peoples! So excited to be here on a winning Monday. It's always fun to talk about it because we'll have keys to how the Packers take their victory over the 49ers, hopefully this coming Sunday, and more great listener feedback, where there's a ton of it always when the Packers have their winning ways. Yes, I preceded Scott, and preceding me from episode 1 to episode 80, Mr. Dallon Christian himself back in the house.
I cannot believe when you say that, Troy. 80 episodes, and I was definitely there from the beginning, and it seems like I've never left. Here we are, once again, the Packers deep in the playoffs. About the only thing difference is a little bit younger coach.
Slightly younger coach, yes, and a great winning record for his rookie season as a head coach. It's so awesome to see him go into the NFC Championship. I can't even imagine.
Personally, I take all the credit because I left the podcast and then we started playing better again.
I was going to take the credit because I was the one that said about 3 or 4 years ago that Mike McCarthy's time was probably winding down with Green Bay.
I remember that.
And I was trying to do it in a nice way. We'll talk a little bit about that as we move forward in this episode. No hard feelings at all with Coach McCarthy. He had a lot of great years, and whenever you have a street named after you leading into Lambeau Field, you've obviously done something very, very special. 2 wins away from maybe having to rename another street, though.
Has there ever been a first-time coach win a Super Bowl? Has that ever happened?
Boy, I'm trying to think. I can't think of it. It's not coming to mind.
I can't believe this whole NFC Championship thing is really happening. But before we get to the Niners, we got to talk about that win over the Seahawks. The heart attack pack, again, stressful to the end, right?
Do we expect it any other way by this point?
Not this year.
Not this season.
Well, and it felt like we were going to go into this game with it out being a heart attack game. You know, we came out with that nice extended lead in the first quarter, and I was like, all right, let's just hold it. I don't even want to hold it. Let's just keep the train running. And sure enough, they gotta have us sitting on our hands by the end of the game, like just on bated breath, waiting to see what's going to happen. And I guess it wouldn't be Packers football if it were any other way.
Well, we also have to give a little bit of credit to 3 in white and blue as well, because you're not going to have very many games where Seattle is out of it when he's behind center. He almost won that game single-handedly for Seattle on last night. And we'll talk about that a little bit more as well. But if you were to tell me at the start of the season, 13-3, a bye in the first round, you win a home playoff game, you're in the NFC Championship game, I would have taken that in. And for me, this season, get to the playoffs, win a playoff game, that would have been a good season. They're playing with house money right now as far as I'm concerned.
And of course, I always want to predict that we're going to win every single game and go undefeated. But even before the preseason started, Troy said, no, Wayne, you can't pick an undefeated season. You need to pick at least one loss. And so I was like, well, if I had to pick a loss, maybe we'll lose against Kansas City in Kansas City. But of course we didn't. And, all is well. I wish the games could have been more blowouts, but hey, win ugly. is still winning. I mean, look what the Patriots did in the Super Bowl last year. That was horrible, and they still got a Lombardi trophy out of it.
Fair enough.
They never ask you what the margin of victory was at the end of the season.
Yeah, and all intents and purposes, I mean, technically it's a 15-1 team because that Eagles game, if they just put in 2 of those goal line situations, just like they had in this game this past Sunday, if they were able to push those in, they beat Philadelphia, and they should have beat the Chargers pretty handily. So I don't know what happened there. Really, the San Francisco 49ers is the only game where they just showed up and laid an egg. So it's a much better football team than people give credit for, because at the end of the day, I mean, just look at the games this weekend. I mean, Titans, Ravens. Have you ever seen any more rushing yards in one playoff game than that one? I mean, Henry had 46 carries. Who carries the ball 46 times and still walks the next day?
Not me.
That's going to be a great question for next Sunday, because Derrick Henry has been doing that the last 5 or 6 weeks. I was listening to the Dan Le Batard show earlier this morning. They said that in his last 16 overall games, Derrick Henry has 1,600 yards rushing. That is almost unheard of in today's National Football League.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be a fantasy football contender at the top of the list next year. I've already got my name, got his name on my list. Not that it has to be. He's going to be at the very, very top, I feel.
Well, then you compare that over to the Niners and Vikings game. Even the Niners there putting up over 170 yards, I think it was, on the ground. Mm-hmm. And then you take that back to the Baltimore game and take a look at 500 yards of total offense for Lamar Jackson by himself. Mm-hmm. And yet he still can't win the football game. The amount of yardage that's been going up is just crazy in this divisional weekend. So that brings us to the question of what is going on with number 30. And I know that in the Seattle game specifically, Seattle has a terrible passing defense. And in the game plan, it makes sense that we would have went more pass heavy than run heavy against Seattle. But I think number 30's got to step up when we go over to San Francisco, because running the ball is going to be the only way we're really going to actually make a dent, I think, in the 49ers. And we have to stop the run as well, which we did a pretty decent job of stopping beast mode most of the game here in Seattle.
I'm hoping that wasn't just him being rusty too, because it was only his second game that he's played this season. I'm hoping that he's been a great player. He is a great player, but it was good to see the Packers shut him down. I just hope that it's not attributed to him just being out of practice, so to speak, or not getting as much game time. If
you went back to the coaches' cams, though, if you take a look at it, I think Blake Martinez and the Smiths did a really great job. I don't know if you noticed it a few times, but they're patting people on the butt as the play is forming. So they're actually moving the linemen into different gaps. So there was something I think that they saw on film that as they were making the adjustments there in the pre-snap, I think they were moving in people into the gaps accordingly where they knew beast mode was going to run based on what they were seeing there in the defensive back arena. Because I saw that a few times where the hand kept coming slapping people's butts, and I was like, all right, this isn't the time to be touching people, guys. We got to be getting ready to stop the run here.
First things first at the line of scrimmage. It was great to see Davante Adams, though, really showing up, because off and on this season, we've talked about how, we're targeting Davante far too often, and everybody knows that's what we're doing during the time when he was out and everybody else stepped up. So we're trying to find that balance. Davante was still targeted about 50% of the time, right? This week?
Yeah, but I feel like that's this week he showed us why. I know we've been complaining, and myself included, that you've got other targets. That's kind of been Aaron Rodgers' MO in years past, as he spreads the ball out everywhere. But Davante is the most reliable one on there. He's always he gets open more often than others, and he catches those crazy ones. Although Jimmy Graham did have some crazy catches this week. I don't even think he missed one, but that's why. And I don't have nearly as much of a problem with him throwing him to Davante 50% of the time this game, because it worked.
Well, and this weekend against the 49ers, the way that San Francisco can get after the quarterback, Davante Adams is going to have to be targeted more, because Rodgers is going to have to get rid of the ball quickly. When you get rid of the ball quickly, you have to find your number one guy, and your number one guy has to get open. Going back to a team like the New Orleans Saints, and I know they're out of the playoffs right now, but all season long, when Drew Brees gets the ball out of his hands very quickly, it's going to Michael Thomas. and Michael Thomas is making those plays, Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams will have to make big plays like that if the Packers have a chance against the 49ers.
And I wonder if I saw it twice. I know I did see it once for sure, but when you get when he comes busting through the middle and he just kind of pops out there for that check down pass, I swear I saw that once or twice, and Rodgers actually took the check down. I think that it's a huge move because I think in the past, Aaron would wait for something to open downfield for the big play. And I think he just finally realized, 5 yards is 5 yards. Take the check down and let the playmakers make the plays. I mean, Davante's catch and hook and turn and then run for another 20 diagonally across the field.
Amazing.
I mean, that's why those guys are out there. They are professionals to make plays. Trust the other 10 guys to come up with something. And he did. He trusted MVS, had a nice catch. First time we've seen him in like 6 weeks. And then Geronimo Allison had a nice catch to keep the thing going. I mean, it's like these guys are on the team too. They can't be that horrific that Aaron isn't targeting them. Either Aaron's just not going through the progressions because he's so locked in on Tay, or just the scheme is not. I don't know what it is, because we've talked about that ad nauseum offline during the course of the season. That we actually were probably playing our best football when Adams wasn't on the field. So how do we get back to the game plan when Adams wasn't on the field, and now add Adams into that? And I think that's how we be really successful going forward.
Well, especially this week, and for all the crap that a lot of people gave Jimmy Graham online all season long, like, why is he even on the team? This is horrible, and he can't catch, and he can't do this, and then he comes up clutch to let everybody know that he can still be Jimmy Graham now and then. I think those 2 huge catches he made in the game were possibly the deal maker that got us the victory.
Yeah, especially considering the controversial spot of that ball that everybody's been complaining about that aren't Packer fans.
Now, isn't it amazing that Seahawk fans are the ones complaining about officiating when it involves the Packers?
Fail Mary.
Exactly.
Hail Mary and others. I can't believe, and I even put a screenshot in the prep document, and everybody's probably seen it all over Twitter and Facebook, how, they always remind us the yellow line is not official, but I've never seen it so off the mark than in the game in the fourth quarter yesterday. Yeah, Jimmy Graham definitely got that first down.
I think they were just like, I need something to line it up against, so I need to actually put it on the hash mark, even though the down to go was in between the hash marks.
It just kind of got sucked right over.
I mean, I got my own yellow pen here. I can draw a line too.
Okay, John Madden.
We talk about accuracy versus precision. Let's just say that the yellow line is not always precise.
Nor are the officials, for that matter, because
True.
I think whether he got it or not, I think this was redemption for the fact that it was clearly a fumble and clearly a recovery from 8 different camera angles. So the only thing I can think of is why we didn't get that fumble was because of the continuation of play. So since they ruled him down and they didn't rule it a fumble initially, maybe that's why they weren't able to give us the ball, even though it was very clear that we won the scrum, because I think it's a matter of what is the call on the field versus what are you actually challenging. I think that's the only thing I could come up with to save the ref's face a little bit. But I think this was vindication that since we didn't get that call, at least we got this one, and this one was actually right.
I see what you're saying there, but at the same time, I still chalk it up to the refs, man, because the argument could be made that the refs stopped watching the play as soon as they ruled the play dead. But when it comes to players are taught and drilled, to play as if the ball were live just in case. Why not the refs? If they had been watching that fumble and saw who recovered it, because they were right there, they've got a better view of it than the cameras even, then they would have known that we actually recovered that ball. Could you imagine? We would have been in the red zone, I believe, at that point, and possibly gone up by 4 scores instead of 3, which would have made this whole thing a non-issue at the end of the game.
No, we still would have found a way for them to actually make it interesting with 3 minutes to go.
Turn into a 1-score game with 3 minutes left.
I mean, it was what, 5 minutes to go when we had the ball, and it's like all we have to do is just sustain a drive, and we've done that, which is different this entire season. Matt LaFleur's engineered really great fourth quarter clock killing drives, and here it's 5 minutes to go in a pivotal game, and we go 3 and out, and it was like, this is how you lose playoff games because you can't convert on third down. And then thankfully that sack was just huge to come up with that sack after trying the whole game. And even he got injured, I believe Preston did at one point in the game.
Yes.
And then had to come out and come back in. So to redeem himself and get the sack when we needed it, that was really great. And then to convert those 2 third downs with Geronimo and with Graham, I mean, just had to take my pills.
And to take things back to the officiating side of things, and I know it's been a major talking point all season long in a number of areas, but as players, not only you taught to play as if the ball was live and to play to the whistle, but to also play and put the game into a situation where one officiating call can't decide the game. Officials are human. It's been a rough season. I believe that there will be changes made in the NFL office, in the leadership of the officiating department. I think there will be a number of changes made in training and development items with officials. But the bottom line is, don't be in a situation where one call can cost you a game. Take the officials out of the equation because they are going to make mistakes. I personally thought in the game that you could buy the replay being inconclusive about who actually did get the ball, because the ruling on the field was originally that the play was not a fumble. If there's one area where I could somewhat defend the officials, that might be the area, but let's just be honest. The officiating has been a major point of contention across the league this season, and you just need to get into a situation where it doesn't become a big factor.
And not just for the Packers. It's been all over
the league. That's exactly right. Yeah, this is not a Green Bay situation exclusively. This has been a talking point all season long.
I want to talk about the best rule and the dumbest rule at the same time. And it was that punt that we got where it was close enough that it's like, man, if he punts that ball, it goes in the end zone. So you take the penalty, get 5 yards, move back, so you get a little bit more room to work with. But the fact that they took the penalty strictly because when you come back from the penalty, the clock continues to run and they get a full fresh 25 seconds on the game clock. I was like, shouldn't the clock stay stopped if you get a penalty? Like, that was the weirdest situation I've seen, I think, in the NFL this year.
Are you talking about the Mike Vrabel play with the Titans and the Patriots?
Well, that one, and it happened in this game too, where we were trying to kill the clock. I think it was like seven minutes ago, and Scott had the ball to punt it, and he took the penalty. And I'm like, oh, good penalty, yeah, get some more yardage. But they were even talking about on the telecast how the minute they came back and went to go play the down again after they walked it off, the play clock started running and the game clock started running. And I was like, man, he just like wrapped off like a whole minute of game time just standing there doing nothing. And I'm like, is that like even allowable? Because that seems weird to me.
I think what you're going to see is a rule change where after a dead ball penalty, such as a false start or a delay of game, the clock won't start until the ball is snapped. That's the easiest way to eliminate that loophole, and you're not going to see that enforced that many times over the course of a season. But that loophole does need to change, because whether it's a false start, another delay of game, the clock can continue to run. And I don't think it'll even be a situation where that occurs in the final 5 minutes of a game or the final 2 minutes of a half. I just think if you see a penalty such as a false start or a delay of game, some sort of dead ball penalty, the clock won't start until the ball is snapped. I think that's going to be a pretty easy rule change to make for next year.
Well, they could even do it where it's that way if it's within a certain number of minutes remaining in the half or in the game. Because that's what they're doing with some of the other rules. So I could see them doing that as well. Like if it's within the last 5 minutes, then that stands.
See, I hate the rest that of the game. When it's like the last 2 minutes or last 3 minutes or whatever. It's like the only thing that should matter is like at the last 2 minutes of the game, all reviews come from upstairs. Otherwise, the game is the game. Like, call the game the same way. Don't make a rule just because, it's within 2 minutes, you get a 10-second runoff if you stand on your head the wrong way or something. It's just dumb. It's like, why is there a 10-second runoff? There wasn't a 10-second runoff when there was 10 minutes left to go in the game. Like,
that's a good
makes
point.
No sense.
But let's talk about the fact that we did not escape this game injury-free. I'm still worried about Brian Bulaga. He had some sort of concussion symptoms, and Alan Lazard has the recurring ankle thing. Scott, are you particularly worried about that or the illnesses going around?
Well, it wasn't even just the ankle. Didn't he run into? I can't remember which player he ran into. It was someone from our team, and it looked like it rocked him pretty bad. But I'm more concerned about the flu that was hitting in the locker room this past week. Somebody went out in the first quarter, and because they were having the symptoms. And man, we can't go. I thought it was Balaga, but I wasn't sure.
He went out early. He warmed up. He was trying to go. A couple series into the game, he couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And in years past here on the Packers Fan Podcast, Troy has poo-pooed me when I talk about, maybe the team had the flu.
Well, clearly you know that if they have the flu, they're winning. So not having the flu is not...
Okay, I'll give you that.
I think another downside of this game was just how much the defense let Russell Wilson just run wild back there.
Oh, my goodness. You knew it was going to happen.
Yeah, but not that much. He had so much time back in the pocket, it was a bit ridiculous.
Well, we have to give the Packers secondary some credit, too. Green Bay's secondary did a very good job in coverage. Unfortunately, at some point, receivers, especially NFL caliber receivers, are going to get open. And as good as the Packers defense has been in points this season, the big issue that I had with the defense on Sunday night was Green Bay was in between with Russell Wilson. They allowed Wilson to extend too many plays. You could see that he was keeping his eyes down the field, being able to buy that extra time without taking off downfield. When you face somebody like Wilson, who's a dual threat, somebody who's got good running ability, you either have to just commit to keeping him in the pocket at all costs, which means he doesn't get the chance to extend plays, or you have to send numbers forward. You have to be able to blitz and either force him to get rid of the ball quickly or tuck and run and just try to maximize as much yardage as he can. Where Green Bay got caught was there were too many times where Wilson would start to drift outside of the pocket, and when he's able to buy that additional time, all that means is more time for the receivers to get open, and it really hurt the Packers defense. I don't think if you look at the game in total, the Packers secondary played poorly at all. I thought the Packers secondary played well. They just had to cover for so long, and as the game went on, that started to wear on the secondary.
Yeah, and I think what they probably should have done was try to, I guess, serve two masters in that regard, because you want to contain Russell Wilson from a downfield threat perspective, because he has the downfield weapons and opportunities. So you're hoping that Jair and Kevin King can shut down those types of plays, but probably run more dime packages, I think, against the Seahawks, because then you can show that you're going into mass pass protect, but then you can dial up the blitzes like you got on that 2-point conversion from Jair Alexander coming off the corner and not even getting seen at all, because they knew exactly where he was going to throw the ball, because it was just like the 2-point conversion they tried earlier in the season. So it just sends them clean on the corner blitz. I mean, that was fantastic. So I think that's probably one way you can do it, is if you have the dime package out there, you got more backs that you can either fire in the blitz and keep the Smiths back. That way, if he does end up running, then you got the Smiths and Blake Martinez to cover the run, and then you worry about having those dime backs come in for the blitz. But hey, it is what it is. I mean, he averaged 9.1 yards a carry on 64 yards of 7 runs. So it's not like he ran the ball a lot, but when he ran the ball, he ran a lot.
And at key moments, too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's the same problem we've always had. The middle of the field looks like a giant freaking sieve. Like you could pitch a tent out in the middle of the Packers defense still to this day.
What a visual.
And every time it's like, watch the middle. Oh, there's the pass to the middle. Oh, there's the run to the middle.
Oh my goodness.
We play too soft. They said on the telecast too, we play too soft in coverage sometimes. We allow the easy toss, and by playing soft, we allow the crossing routes to happen, and then the middle of the field becomes open because you're chasing your guy.
But we won. And now we get ready for another opponent.
Packer fans are the most critical even if they win.
At least we do need to talk about the highs and the lows. But on the plus side, we don't need to face another quarterback like that unless we're playing the Chiefs in the Super Bowl and Patrick Mahomes. But and State Farm commercials will abound. But we'll get to that.
Oh, my goodness.
Can you imagine how much money they're going to rake in?
Tons. Let's go with some high-powered, high-energy listener feedback. I hope you're ready for this. There's some good stuff in here. People, give us a call after the Niners game this coming Sunday and be part of the show as well. Give us a call at 920-3PACK-GO like Megan did.
Go, Pack, go, baby! This is Megan. I sort of said you lost my voice. This is Megan and Pete. Say hi.
Hey.
My co-host. We just chased down Aaron and Danica, which was freaking awesome in their car, and they were just sort of staring ahead and laughing, and, the smile says it all. He deserves this. He's freaking amazing. He's such a badass, excuse my language. This was the most fun game in the world. The snow started coming down right at the end. I can't say anything about how amazing it was. There are no words to describe this. Pete, go.
All I got to say is the Cheesehead Caravan, San Fran. Let's go, baby.
Woo! Go, Pack, go! Sorry, I kind of lost my voice. And I actually did mean to make a sign that said, hi, Wayne and Scott, so that you guys would see me in the stands, but I ran out of time. And either way, I know y'all are watching. This is so freaking great! Woo! Green and gold till we're dead and cold, baby!
Hey-yo.
Wow, I love the energy, Megan. That was so awesome. I wish you could see our video because Dallon just had to rip off his headphones because it was so loud. Yeah, that was great. I'm a little jealous that she got to see Aaron and Danica. That would have been pretty cool to see. But man, bring that energy next week. I sincerely hope that Megan is flying out to California to see that game because we need that kind of energy from the fans out there for sure.
So from the Washington game, I had 96 decibels on my watch for my noise thing, and I think Megan hit 120, which was louder than the Viking Stadium there.
Go, Pack, go! Go, Pack, go! Let's go, baby! Yes! Yes! Oh! First off, great win. You're right, last week it was not the most inspiring Go, Pack, go. I guess I do need to see the game to get fired up, win, lose, or draw. I am ecstatic about the win. Man, I feel like I want to throw up after that game. My goodness. It felt like we're going back to that NFC Championship when they collapsed a few years back. Whew! What a great coaching game by Matt LaFleur. Very impressed. Way to finish inside the red zone. Jones and Rodgers, Devontae Adams. Incredible game. Way to play big. Jimmy Graham, you have been a complete disappointment the past two seasons, but what a catch. Yes, it was short, but I'll take it. Hook or crook. Let's go. We got a big test next week. Oh, great job by the defense for most of the game, even coming up big to get the stop in the second half. In the fourth quarter, really, specifically. Man, I'm sorry, I'm all over the place, but what a win. I'm so thankful. We got a big test in the Niners, but you know what? I believe. I said it. If it's ugly, if it's close, I thought for a moment they were going to give us a relaxed game, but then I realized, no, it's the Packer way. We got to be close. You got to clutch your chest. You got to be near heart attack, near death, but it'll be worth it if we get another Super Bowl victory. Green and gold till I'm dead and cold. Can't wait to hear from all the Packer faithful. Way to stay strong. This is our year. Keep believing. Go, Pack, go!
Man, I've missed the voicemail from the listeners.
I was trying to figure out, was that Andre in LA?
That was Andre in LA.
That's what I thought it was. I was like, he was like, this is Andre in LA. And I was like, this is Andre in LA. What's up?
Scott's been coaching Andre early in the season.
Yeah. Because I think it was like the first episode.
Yes, it was.
When I came on, he had kind of like a go, Pack, go. And I called him out on it. And then ever since then, he's just been on fire. We need to get that dude on an episode sometime, man. Just like, I would just love to sit and chat with him. He is a riot. Man, thank you, Andre. That again, the look on Dallon's face was great. I wish you could have seen it.
The energy from these people, and I don't think I have overly sensitive headphones, but I'm able to take the headphones off and having no issues hearing the voicemail from the listeners. This obviously one of the things that has grown about this podcast over the 120 episodes or so since I've stopped doing it on a full-time basis has been the volume and the excitement level of these these voicemails. It's been pretty impressive.
Yeah, Andre in LA, longtime listener, and his voicemail as well as the other three, they all came in within 20 minutes of the end of the game. It was amazing. And Andre's so excited, he felt like he might throw up.
I love it.
And a great point about the red zone. So good, Andre. Thanks again, and we look forward to hearing you after the victory, hopefully, over the Niners this week.
Hey, guys, this is Mark from New Lisbon. The game just ended. I'm surprised they even got through. I figured your lines are just going to be flooded with calls. What a great win for the Packers. Gutsy win. Here's what I love about tonight and the Packers winning. It was vintage Aaron Rodgers. When Aaron Rodgers was MVP, he owned third down and he owned the red zone. And that's what happened tonight. So many big third down passes. The Graham pass and then the Devontae Adams pass previous to that. And this was just vintage Rodgers. Granted, against the 26th ranked defense in the league, but this was just awesome. And I'm so glad Jimmy Graham made a big play because I love the guy, and there's so many Packer fans that just have written him off and saying he's overpaid. But we're in the NFC Championship game, and no matter what happens, if you would have said to any Packer fan in August that we're going to make it to the NFC Championship game, you would have been told you're crazy. And here's the really crazy part. The team that we beat, Seattle, could have helped us out by beating San Francisco. They came 1 yard short, and then would be hosting the game. So how ironic that Seattle has played such a integral role in the whole playoff thing. But, yeah, it would be great if it was at Lambeau. But what a great season, no matter what happens. And it's going to be another great week. Mondays are always better when the Packers win in the playoffs. So go Pack, go. Talk to you next week.
Vintage Aaron Rodgers, indeed. I think the best thing that came out of this was that I think it was the week before, if I remember correctly, or before the bye week, right? Because we had the bye week. But the last game of that season where he was just off. Like every single throw against Detroit was missing by yard or 2 yards or 3 yards. I mean, it was just, what is Aaron doing? Like, is Aaron done? Is he going to go retire with Tom Brady this year because they're going to be like bros and go together and hang out at the bar? I don't know. But yeah, it was nice to see just the finesse touches on some of the passes he threw today. He looked more like himself from 2011, 2012, 2013. So hopefully that'll extend when the California boy goes home-ish on Sunday night. And hopefully we can see some really great stuff, Mark, because I am super excited to get some revenge for that craptastic event that they flexed into Sunday night.
Well, first of all, Tom Brady's going to be in California next year when he's quarterbacking the Chargers.
What?
You heard that one here first.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
I thought he was going to Vegas to go quarterback for the Raiders.
Since I've been gone, I've learned about the hot take.
Gotta have a hot take.
I never did any hot takes when I hosted the show, and now I'm going to bring those out. It's a whole embrace debate thing. The thing about Rodgers, yes, he was very good on Sunday night. Probably one of his better games of the season. But we still, in my opinion, haven't yet seen that Aaron Rodgers game where he picks the team up on his back and single-handedly carries the team to a win. Aaron Rodgers hasn't had to do that very much this year. I'm never going to use the term game manager. As a quarterback in the NFL, there is no such thing as a game manager. But Aaron Rodgers this season has done a very good job of working within the offense and taking the philosophies of Matt LaFleur and executing them on the field. We have not yet seen that AR-12 magic that we know he has. Case in point, the Dallas game in the playoffs. We haven't seen that yet. I think he has one game like that in him. I go back to the old Toby Keith country music song. I ain't as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was. And we haven't seen that game yet from Aaron Rodgers. Just saying.
I'd love to see that game, but at the same time, I'm kind of hoping we don't have to. I think that's the difference.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't want to see it, but at some point in either the game against the 49ers, or if the Packers do end up in a shootout against the Chiefs, potentially in a Super Bowl, we may have to see that game.
And if that game comes, I'd prefer to be against the Chiefs because we're going to need it.
Well, exactly, but we just have not seen that type of game yet from Aaron Rodgers, and I know he has that game in him still.
If you go back and actually watch the Niners game, the first half minus the score right at the end of the half, that game was actually fairly close. So the first half, we were hanging with San Francisco just fine, and then we went to the locker room and probably caught the flu. I don't know. But
there it is.
It's just, I don't think San Francisco is as good as they appear to be, depending on what kind of scheme you match up with and who's actually matching up. I think they did a really great job against the Vikings running the ball, which is exactly what we did against the Vikings twice this season. So I think it's really a matter of if you contain the running backs for San Francisco, Garoppolo has to beat you. And I think with our secondary and our blitz packages that we do have, I think we'll be okay there. The biggest unknown about what's going to happen in San Francisco is the San Francisco defense, which is fierce. And can Aaron Jones actually break through that line and make some magic happen? This is where Aaron Jones gets his contract extension and payday is Sunday.
And we'll talk about that in just a little bit.
Go, Pack, go! Go, Pack, go! This is Dan from Denver, Colorado. Just got done watching the greatest playoff game I've seen in a while. So go, Pack, go! Not quite the dominant game, but still we did exactly what we needed to win. Exactly what we've done all season long. Go, Pack, go! You guys have a great week. Looking forward to the NFC Championship and bring on the 49ers.
Awesome, Dan. Thanks so much for the call. Thanks so much for having the family chime in with the Go Pack Goes, and even your dog, it sounded like at one point. Yeah, it's going to be an exciting week leading up to this game. There's going to be so many storylines as to the rest of the week unfolds. It's nice that the game is not a 5:30 Pacific start. It's 3:40 Pacific. So it's not quite a night game because we know what happened last time in the night. But Dan, we hope to hear from you after that Niners game. Let's also check in with some emails. Scott, you got the first email there?
I do. The first one comes from Steven. He says, Steven checking in from Palos Park, Illinois with congratulations on the 200th episode of the Packers Fan Podcast. Wayne, did you ever think that you would hit this many episodes when you first started the podcast? And looking ahead, we have to play the San Francisco 49ers. Can the Packers pull off an upset and reach the Super Bowl? Wayne and Scott, please pick carefully on the predictions for the game. Since last time we played them, they beat us 37-8 in Week 12, which was just after our bye week. When Wayne does decide to fly to the Midwest and Scott settles the Culver's bet, will there be pictures taken to prove that the bet has been paid off? Again, congratulations on the 200th episode of the Packers Fan Podcast. And here is to 200 more episodes, Stephen Verheeren. Yeah, there definitely will be pictures of that whenever Wayne gets out here, so I can actually, because I've obviously lost.
You can't catch me now.
I can't catch you now, no, unless I do like a triple shock for the Super Bowl or on another tie or something like that, but that did not happen. So, Wayne, how does it feel to do 200? Did you ever think you're going to do it?
I didn't even think that far ahead. I had 100 in my sights, but 200 is just hard to fathom, especially since during the off season, we might only do an episode every other month, something like that. So 200, it's been 9 full seasons. Though, of course, it's not a full season till after we win the Super Bowl, but it's been pretty much 9 full seasons. And yeah, I got to get to the Midwest. There will be photos. We got to get as many people together as we can. I can taste those cheese curds now, but I probably won't make it till during the football season. I was thinking maybe a nice mid-October, early November game. Scott, of course, thinks I need to come when it's freezing.
No, you got to come out and experience the full tundra experience, man. Yeah, no, that's not happening. You got to come out here when it's cold. We're going to bundle up. We're going to get an Airbnb up there, do some drinking the night before, We're totally going to make that happen next season.
You know, there could have been an NFC Championship game at Lambeau Field this coming weekend, but we couldn't even count on the Vikings.
Well, that's because, let's be clear, in the Midwest, the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, that weekend is always the coldest weekend.
Oh, really?
So I am glad we're not playing at home next weekend, because I would have actually wanted to buy tickets to go to the championship game, because I've been to the divisional game, and that was a lot of fun. I lost to the Giants, unfortunately, when I was there. If we all remember that one after the 15-1 season, what was going on? But yeah, to see a championship game in Lambeau would be awesome. But it's pretty cold that weekend.
Was that the game when it started snowing in the third quarter?
Yeah.
Was it that game? Yeah, man, I remember watching that one in my basement, just going, "You got to be kidding me!"
How do you go 15-1 and lose to the Giants?
Yeah,
man.
Well, they did win the Super Bowl that year, didn't they?
Especially after the Giants beat Brett Favre, and it's like, the Giants.
Who would have thought?
So, at least it's moved on to the Seahawks.
Exactly. Dallon, do you want to take the next brief email?
From Caleb, Kathy, and Roy Fisher from Green Bay, Wisconsin. Wow, what a game. Adams and the Smith brothers were great. Love the Zadarius Smith snubbed t-shirt, by the way. My words there, not theirs. They had some amazing plays on defense. Go Packers, go Pack, go. Bleed green and gold till dead and cold. I have to get my enunciation back into the game now.
Oh yeah, there's a rhythm to that. That's for sure. Well done. And I did like some of the very quick photoshopped versions of that Under Armour that said snubbed and it said sea chickens. So people waste no time, and I love that about them. And we expect even higher energy next Sunday night after we beat the 49ers in Frisco. So get in your calls before you go to bed Sunday night, or if you're in the UK or Europe, before you go to work Monday morning. Call us that night, please. 920-3-PACK-GO. So the Green Bay Packers head back to Frisco to play the hated 49ers at 5:40 p.m. Central Time. Green Bay leads this series as well, 36-31 with one tie. One of my favorite Packer victories over the Niners in the playoffs was the NFC title game at Candlestick, January 98, when Brett Favre and the Packers stunned the Niners 23-10. I distinctly remember a Niner player was standing inside the stadium off to the side watching as the Packers got the NFC Champs trophy. And even though it hurt so bad, the Niner player told the media that this loss really hurt, and he wanted to let it hurt for a long time and let it soak in. And I think there's a lot of positivity to that type of thing. But even better, the Packers went on to the Super Bowl, overconfident, and lost to the Broncos. But hey, we beat the Niners. Dallon and then Troy, what are your favorite Packer-Niner memories?
My favorite playoff memory from a Packer-Niner game, first weekend of January 1996. It was Favre and Holmgren's first major foray into the playoffs. They defeated the 49ers 27-17. That was the game where Craig Newsome forced the fumble very early in the game. That game, to me, really signaled that the Packers were there to stay. At that time, the 49ers had taken over the mantle from Dallas, or were right up there with Dallas, I should say, as one of the dominant NFL teams of the 80s and the 90s, from Joe Montana to Steve Young. The 49ers just signaled everything that was at the highest standard of the NFL at that time, along with Dallas. And for Green Bay to go into Candlestick Park and defeat the 49ers, really dominate that game from the opening drive of the game onward, getting that takeaway early, that was the game that signaled to me that the Packers were there to stay. They were going to be a force in the NFC. The Green Bay had been, quite frankly, so bad for so long through the 70s and the 80s, and then when Brett Favre came in, you could start to see the tide turn a little bit. But probably more than any other game as a Green Bay fan, that game against San Francisco was the one that I look back to and say, Green Bay arrived with that game. Plus, if you put that link that I gave you from the San Francisco Chronicle on some of the history of the Packers 49ers games, that logo athletic jacket that Mike Holmgren was wearing with the white sleeve and the Packers script along the sleeve, if there is another jacket that just screams 90s, I have yet to see it, because that logo athletic jacket was about as quintessentially 90s as you're ever going to see.
Good point. Troy, memories?
I'm gonna stay in the 90s because I found it very poetic that the San Francisco 49ers are 13-3, are in the first seed, and we're 13-3 in the second seed, because this sounds very much like the 1997 NFC Championship game where the Packers were victorious over the 49ers 23-10, heading for their straight second Super Bowl appearance in a row. And really the game momentum turned on a second quarter interception by veteran safety Eugene Robinson, who returned a young errant pass 58 yards to the Frisco 28, and Favre cashed in just 2 plays later when he found Freeman on a slant pattern to give the Packers a 10-0 lead. I mean, that was just where you like, okay, we're up 10-0 on the first seed. I think this is magic going to happen. Favre's going back to the Super Bowl. And it's going to be very reminiscent, I think, because when you look at that team from 97, the entire second half, the Green Bay defense clamped down and sacked Young 4 times. Outside linebacker Keith McKenzie had 2 of those sacks alone, and that was really what helped mount the comeback from Young and the 49ers. So I think with this weekend coming up being very similar in kind of team makeup and team stature and record and everything, plus this was the second time they played in inclement weather. Now, granted, we won't have the weather probably out in California, unfortunately, but I think this is where we're going to see that famous line from Rodgers at the start of the season after that Bears game where he said, "We have a defense." And I think that's exactly what you're going to see is the defense step up on Sunday night in order to bring home a win and hopefully a future Lombardi trophy.
As for me, my most memorable 49ers game is when we came in to the NFC Championship as underdogs. Nobody thought we could do it. And January 19th, 2020, we just destroyed the San Francisco 49ers to make our way to the Super Bowl. It was an awesome game to watch, and that's definitely my favorite.
That one brings a tear to my eye. It was a beautiful game.
I don't have all the stats that Troy does, sorry.
It was amazing. And yeah, the weather, unlike Lambeau Field in Santa Clara, around kickoff, it's going to be about 58, maybe 60 degrees Fahrenheit, partly cloudy, non-factor unless things drastically change. Scott, what do the Packers have to do to beat the Niners and make it to that game memory and make it real?
Well, in a short phrase, everything I said last week.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Strike fast, strike early. Don't be overconfident, and short passes. That formula worked well for the Pack last week. I swear it felt like they were listening to us. But they faced the Niners defense this week on their home turf. It will be an even tougher hill to climb, and they have to absolutely want it. Secondly, get after Garoppolo. The defense simply gave Wilson too much time to work with this past game. That simply can't happen if we want to walk away with a W in California. I want to see his butt firmly planted on that turf at least 6 times. Yes,
10.
I said it. 6 times.
10 times.
It's the best way to keep him contained, especially if the D keeps the pressure on him throughout the entire game. And lastly, keep the defense off the field. Yes, this is another one for the defense, but I'm walking into this game assuming Rodgers and his crew are bringing the same heat they did against the Seahawks. With that said, we tend to falter in the second half simply because they're out of gas. Make those offensive drives deliberate and with a good payoff to give the other 11 guys a chance to be rested enough for the Niners offense, because they are certainly a force to be reckoned with.
I think one of the big factors that people may not necessarily think about with this game, Garoppolo's had a great season, but this is his first start in an NFC Championship game. He's been a starting quarterback on teams that haven't been very good, and then, of course, he's been injured. But this is going to be his first major appearance in a game of this magnitude. Yes, they had the game last weekend against the Vikings.
It's the Vikings.
It was the Vikings 6th seed. The Vikings had come off of that very emotional win over the Saints. That was pretty much expected that the 49ers were going to do what they were going to do. Jimmy Garoppolo is a major question mark in this game, in my opinion. He's had a great season, but it's a little bit different in the playoffs, and he's going against a quarterback that has been in this spot several times before, not always with the success that we might have wanted to see. But Aaron Rodgers has been to the NFC Championship game. He understands the pressure that comes with this game. He understands the decisions that have to be made as a quarterback in order to give your team the best chance to win. If Garoppolo plays well, I think the 49ers probably win this game. But if, like you said, Scott, if the Packers can pressure Garoppolo, if they can get pressure up the middle and get into Garoppolo's face as opposed to pressuring from the outside and force Garoppolo to throw off his back foot, I think Green Bay can have some success in this game.
Yeah, and let's not forget that Rodgers is probably looking to redeem himself also for the 2012 debacle when Colin Kaepernick picked up the torch from Alex Smith midway through that season. I mean, Kaepernick ran 181 yards with 2 touchdowns and passing for another 263 in that game when the 49ers ended up beating us 45-31. So I think that this is probably one of those chips on Aaron's shoulder where he's like, I was embarrassed earlier this season in that Sunday night contest. And the fact that we should have been better in that game against the 49ers back in 2012. This is a game I think Aaron very much is like, I want to win.
Speaking of, I think we need to take a drink every time they show the interview where Rodgers says that the Niners are going to be sorry they didn't draft him.
We're going to be plastered.
This is very true.
Thank goodness it's a 3-day weekend.
Right?
Yeah, they're going to be playing that the entire time. Now, of course, if we're victorious at the end of that game, they can just play that on a loop for the next half hour, and I'll just laugh and laugh and laugh. Let's make our picks, gentlemen. Scott, let's start with you. I don't even know if you're going to pick with your heart or your head, to be sure. What do you see going down?
Well, I see you didn't want to take the victory lap there with your numbers from last week.
Well, I did pick closest with your total differential. I now lead our series 8-5. You can't catch me now unless we come up with some crazy twist with a Super Bowl score. If you pick it right on, maybe you get triple points. I don't know.
Ooh, that would be a fun thing.
Don't feel bad, Scott. This is your first season. I mean, he's got 9 seasons on you. So.
That's true. That's true. Well, like you mentioned, Wayne, I am going with my heart on this one instead of my head. Number one, because I want them to win so badly. You have no idea. This is not regular season. I think this is. My head tells me that the Niners are going to pull this off, but my heart says Packers 31, Niners 24.
That's a pretty big margin of victory, though.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. For me, I'm going to pick with my head and pick a Packers victory. I'm surprised that I'm not
surprise.
Got to wrap up near the end of the 9th season, still picking Packers victories. Now, I would, of course, like to see it be 52-0, something like that, because I hate the Niners that much. But I think it's going to be the most heart attack game that we've had. I think the Packers are going to win by 1. We're going to win 25-24.
Now, is that 24 and we have to come back to put up 3 points to win by 1? Or are we leading the whole game and the Niners just climb back into it but just miss?
Are you going to make me do that internal math on how that's all going to come into play?
I just want to know if this is a Packers win from behind pick, or this is a Niners are trying to win and then they fail on the 2-point conversion.
I think that we are winning the entire game and the Niners will fail on the 1-point conversion to come up 1 point short. No overtime for you. What do you see, Troy?
I say that it's going to be tied 21-21, and we're going to get that one last vintage Rodgers drive where he's going to do the best he can to get downfield. But because he's not quite vintage Rodgers, he's going to take one old man and give it to the other old man, and Crosby is going to nut it for a 24-21 victory at the buzzer.
All right.
To avoid overtime, because we're definitely not going to lose this game. Well, we will not be behind. But I think it'll be close. I think it'll be 21-21, and Crosby gets it for the win.
Hey, Crosby. How you picking, Dallon?
For those who listen to the first 80 episodes of the Packers Fan Podcast, I was very well known for being the pragmatic one, the analytical one, the one that always picked with my head. Yes, I picked with my head and picked the Giants the year that the Packers were 15-1 in the regular season. I'm sure everybody right now is expecting me to pick the 49ers in this game. I'm not doing that. I'm going with my heart in this game. I think Aaron Rodgers summons the magic one more time like I talked about earlier. I think Rodgers is going to lead a late fourth quarter drive to give the Packers a game-winning touchdown, a Devontae Adams catch in the end zone with under 2 minutes left, gives Green Bay a 31-27 win over San Francisco, and the Packers shock the world, and they go to the Super Bowl to play the Chiefs.
Ooh, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Awesome. I love it. And let's see what the listeners think. We had our weekly poll on Twitter and in our Packers Fan Podcast Facebook community group at packerscommunity.com. Will the Packers be in this year's Super Bowl? And the answers were yes versus the Chiefs, yes versus the Titans, and no, but I hope I'm wrong about that. And I didn't even want to give no as an option, but Scott would chew me out at no end if I didn't. So
that's true story. True story.
That's true. 57% of the voters said, yes, we're going to the Super Bowl. We're going to play the Chiefs, a rematch of Super Bowl number 1. 23% said, yes, we're going to the Super Bowl to play the Titans. And 20% of the voters said, no Super Bowl, but I hope I'm wrong about it. And we also had some comments regarding the poll. Bill said State Farm will have to be the main sponsor, and they can have a State Farm Bowl, Mahomie versus A-Rod, to decide who's best represents State Farm Insurance.
Oh my goodness! Could you? State Farm is seriously foaming at the mouth at the possibility of those two guys playing in the Super Bowl. Can you imagine? They're probably like calling them up right now, trying to film a commercial just in case it happens.
Don't think there isn't a conspiracy theory Reddit out there about how the NFL is fixed.
Oh, I know.
I've already seen it.
Whatever gets us there, guys. I'll take it.
Yeah.
We also got one from Janelle who said, with these crazy wins from all over the league, anything is possible. I'll say it'll be Packers and Chiefs because I think Mahomes is a cool guy. LOL. Go Pack, go. I'm actually with Janelle. I'm gonna pick against the Chiefs mostly because I want that to happen so bad, not because of State Farm reasons, but because if what they're saying is true and they actually are friends, that's incredible. Like you said, it was the first Super Bowl. This is the 100th season. That would just be a beautiful way to end this season of football, and I want it so badly. You have no idea. It's been too long since we held up that trophy. Also, we've got some great stuff in the Packers Fan Podcast Facebook community group and page this week. Bill once again says, go Pack, go. How about that? Another Heart Attack Pack win and almost yet another game-deciding call from the refs with a reconfirmation of the first down after it was already confirmed by the booth because they saw another video? What was that about? That is an interesting one. I don't think I've ever seen that in a game where we've got more footage. Like we got a cell phone video from a fan who clearly saw that this was, what was that?
That's gotta
what happened to the screen goes dark at a certain point in time.
Right.
Mystery. Static footage landed on the moon. Not. Lofia says, beautiful win today. Scott, help me out with the emojis.
I don't know what the first one is. Is that a taco?
It's clappy emoji, thank you praying emoji, cheese emoji, muscle emoji, green heart, yellow heart emoji.
Okay.
Love it. Dallon?
Our new language. Rob posted, who would have called Jimmy Graham and Geronimo Allison making clutch catches to seal the game? I would have called Geronimo Allison, my fellow University of Illinois alum. I hope we can keep this momentum going into next week. Go Pack, go.
And StyleFin says, excellent game, absolute nail biter, super proud of all phases, but especially the defense, who were able to limit Russell Wilson really well for the most part.
And the last one came from Dictus, who said, I have no words. I'm completely done for. We wiped the Fail Mary and that disgusting 2014 disgrace in one game. I am literally feeling like an out-of-body experience. This, wow. A cleansing. Nothing less. I'll sleep like a baby. I don't care what team is next. Everything from now on is pure joy.
I can feel the emotion as he was typing that out. That was awesome. Be sure to join the Packers Fan Podcast Facebook community. Be part of the conversation at packerscommunity.com, especially during the 49ers game this week. We're going to have a post where you can chat about the game as it happens. And if this past week is any indication, it's going to be very lively. Check it out at packerscommunity.com.
We've also got some general NFL chatter. We had a couple other games this weekend besides our own. How about that Chiefs game? Can we talk about that for a minute? Because holy cow, I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. They were down by 3 scores in the first quarter, brought it back to a close game before the halftime, and then came back and were up by over 20 points by the fourth quarter. That is an insane swing in any game, much less a divisional playoff game. What a fun game to watch, which I just happened to have on in the background while I was, doing my normal stuff around the house, and I could not take my eyes off it.
Yeah, I took a nap after they were up by 3 scores.
The Titans or the Chiefs?
The Titans. And I woke up and I was like, am I awake? What the hell just happened? Where am I?
Never discount the Chiefs' quick strike ability. 2 points from that game. Number one, the Chiefs scored so many touchdowns that Arrowhead Stadium ran out of celebratory fireworks after scores. They had to post a message on the video board apologizing for that. And second of all, it's going to be very interesting to hear what additional backlash may come from the Texans. I've said this before to some friends this week. I thought Bill O'Brien made a very big mistake not going for the knockout punch on 4th down and 1 inside of the Kansas City 20 and settling for the field goal. When you have Deshaun Watson, you have a dual threat as good as he is. It's 4th down and 1. If you can't get that 1 yard and then be able to punch the ball in from there, you've got bigger problems. And that was even before the fake punt. Those 2 decisions made together were completely head-scratching to me. And to be real honest, I've always questioned Bill O'Brien's coaching ability, his game management ability. That particular sequence, in my mind, was just inexcusable.
And speaking of the Titans, what a great job they did against the Ravens. And maybe the media should not have crowned the Ravens as Super Bowl champs way back in week 8.
I did too. I picked them in my bracket.
Yeah, there
to
were
go
people.
All the way.
There were people over the past few weeks that were like, "Why are your Packers even trying to get to the Super Bowl? You're just going to get crushed by the Ravens." Well,
I gave up on the Ravens after I won my 3 fantasy football championships this year in week 16. I was like, Lamar's done.
3.
He can get hurt now.
3
I won
championships.
all 3 leagues. All 3
3 for
leagues
3.
This year.
Oh my goodness.
Woo!
Well done.
That's nuts.
And one was a non-playoff league, so that was I won that one 12-4 versus 12-4 on 150 points.
Wow.
Tiebreaker.
Well, Troy talked about Lamar Jackson having almost 500 yards of offense in that game against the Titans, but over 130 of those yards were in garbage time in the fourth quarter after the game was pretty much out of doubt. The Ravens have a very good team. They did not play well against the Titans, and it did highlight the one significant weakness that Ravens team has. If they get down a couple of scores, it is very difficult for them to come back. Lamar Jackson is going to continue improving as an NFL quarterback. The Ravens have done a great job structuring an offense to take advantage of his extraordinarily unique skill set. But the one thing that I think a lot of people haven't necessarily noticed a whole lot this year is that Lamar Jackson has improved greatly in becoming a quote-unquote more traditional NFL quarterback. When he continues to improve, and I believe he's going to continue improving, because if you look at his improvement from season 1 to season 2, there's another quarterback in that same division who regressed significantly from season 1 to season 2, Baker Mayfield. If we see Lamar Jackson continue to have that level of improvement over the next couple of years, the sky is the limit for him.
And we don't even have to talk about the Viking 49ers game, because Kirk Cousins was Kirk Cousins that we know, and Dalvin Cook didn't do anything. And that's my biggest fear right now, is that was Dalvin Cook hurt, or is the San Francisco defense that good?
I also just want to say how entertaining the postseason has been this year. I mean, the wild card weekend alone might have been the best ever. It was
for sure.
It was just great. And both Sunday games this week were fantastic games as well. Obviously, I'm a little biased, but it's just been a great postseason for the NFL, and it's shaping up to be a great and even better one. I can't wait for next weekend. It's going to be awesome.
All the more reason for the new schedules so that you can get rid of 2 preseason games to add 1 more playoff game.
Oh, man, that'd be interesting. Well, before we move on, I want to remind you guys, if you do love to play video games as much as I do, please be sure to check out my other podcast, The Gaming Outsider, which can be heard at the same place you listen to this one. On our episode this week, we're discussing our New Year's resolutions, both video game related and otherwise. And we got a few things to say about the upcoming console from Microsoft, the Xbox Series X, as well as the absence of Sony from E3 this year. If you'd like to check that out, be sure to see our website, which is thegamingoutsider.com.
And normally I'd talk a lot about my Don't Blink podcast for Doctor Who. In lieu of that, I'm hoping the new episode this coming week cleanses things, and we'll talk about all that on don'tblinkpodcast.com. But Troy and Dallon, what are you two guys up to in 2020?
Well, we are still going strong over at The Blacklist Exposed at theblacklistexposed.com. We're in season 7. We're at the break point right now, but we will return in late March for 12 fantastic episodes to conclude the 7th season of James Spader and Megan Boone's awesome fun. And just before we started recording, the press release was put out that BeyondWestworldPodcast.com will be back in 2020 on March 15th. March 15th, season 3 of HBO's Westworld will kick off, and it'll be glorious because we are out of the park and have no idea what's going to happen.
My.
So the Beyond Westworld podcast will return shortly thereafter.
So you'll be doing
March 16th.
You'll be doing double duty.
Double duty for 8 weeks. It'll be a blast.
Enjoy that. Good stuff.
Thanks.
Dallon?
Thankfully football's not on.
I've got 2 teenage boys now, or pretty close to teenage boys. So as you could imagine, being the sports fan that I am, I've raised them well, and they have become very active in athletics as well. I've stepped away to some degree from some of the play-by-play announcing that I've done with QC Sportsnet. Don't do as much of that now, except around my son's game, sophomore, Pleasant Valley High School. My youngest son, Garrett, is now almost 12 years old. It's hard to imagine that he was just a little guy when we were doing the first few seasons of the podcast. But he's almost 12 years old now, a big soccer fan. As what happens when you have kids and they start to become interested in various sports, you start to pay a lot more attention to those sports. I probably know as much about international football, i.e. soccer, as I do about American football. I spend a lot of my time on Saturdays and Sundays at my kids' soccer games. I've gotten back into soccer officiating now because it's a great way to offset those travel expenses from competitive club sports. Definitely staying busy, keeping up on the Packers when I can. DVR is helpful on some of that, so it's been pretty busy, but life definitely comes at you pretty quickly when you have teenagers.
Absolutely. I remember those days for sure. We got to send out some shout outs. Bryant, thank you, and Go Pack Go for your $24 a month Willie Wood level support of the podcast. You have rocked it all this season yet again, as have the Texas only Green Bay Packers Fanatics Facebook group at the $12 a month level. Thank you so very much. And of course, Go Pack Go to you as well.
We've also got a couple contributors at the $4 Brett Favre monthly Patreon support level, Jeff Summerfield and Lawrence Harvey. And at the $1 Curly Lambeau level podcast support, I want to say thank you to Joe Christiansen, Matt Haig, Hank Davis from the TPE Network of Podcasts, and Aaron Peterson from the Hollywood Outsider. Check out how you too can financially support the podcast at a level to match your budget, and maybe even get some cool Packers Fan Podcast logo merch. Details at patreon.com/Packers Fan Podcast. Thanks, and Go Pack Go.
And speaking of thanks and Go Pack Go, Sir Troy Heinritz and Sir Dallon Christiansen, thanks for joining us for this 200th episode of your Packers Fan Podcast.
It's been a lot of fun, brought back a lot of memories.
Yeah, it's just amazing to be back with all the fans and hanging out here, and just really excited to see what happens on Sunday.
Yeah. Troy, it's always a pleasure to podcast with you, man. I feel like it's been years since I've been in front of a mic with you. And Dallon, it was great to meet you. I think you should come back because I could always go for a gallon of Dallon.
I have a really bad story about a Papa Murphy's that misspelled my name on the receipt, you can probably guess where that's going.
I'm a little slow on the upkeep. I can't envision what it might be. You guys will have to probably post it in text or somewhere. Anyway, thanks again, guys. Scott, thanks again for a fabulous season that's not even over yet. Bonus episodes of your Packers Fan Podcast, which is not yet affiliated with the NFL or the Green Bay Packers. Just saying. We can always use some help to make it happen, though. Email media@PackersFanPodcast.com if you can help.
We're also on Twitter, everybody. If you'd like to follow us, the Twitter handle for the podcast is @PackersFanPod. My personal Twitter handle is @GoCastScott, and Wayne's is @WayneHenderson. And also, please be sure to join our Packers Fan Podcast Facebook community by visiting PackersCommunity.com and join the conversation.
And get your feedback in Sunday night before you go to bed at PackersFanPodcast.com or just call 920-3-PACK-GO.
And be sure to subscribe in your podcast player of choice. And as we wrap up, let's hear from the Texas-only Green Bay Packers Fanatics group to get ready to go to the Super Bowl.
This is Dawn down here in Texas, a.k.a. Granny Cheese.
Hi, I'm James.
Hi, I'm Kim.
Hi, I'm Melissa.
Hi, I'm Susan.
Hi, I'm Carrie.
Hi, I'm Lisa Montgomery, and we want to say,
Go, Pack, go!